do what you love and it'll never be work for you ever. Like
Mhm.
do something you love. I don't care if you think it's not going to make you a lot of money, right? If you choose something that you are absolutely passionate about and you love it, you will do it for the rest of forever and it will sustain you for where your needs are met.
So you want to make an impact. You're thinking about starting a business, sharing your voice. How do women do it that handle motherhood, family, and still chase after those dreams? Well, listen each week as we dive into the stories of women who know. This is Call Me CEO. Hey everyone, and welcome to Call Me CEO. I'm so thrilled for today's podcast episode. She is Tia B. Stokes. And if you're on TikTok at all, you have to have seen her fight song. She is a mother of 5 and also a cancer thriver and business owner, YouTuber, and TikTok star. She has positivity and light that has reached millions worldwide. And she is now sharing her story with you. And I just can't wait for her to be on the episode. Make sure that you check out thevaultdance.com, where she shares her Dance for a Cause business, and we will have all of the fun links below in the episode notes. Welcome back, everyone, to Call Me CEO. This is your host, Camille Walker. I am so thrilled that we have Tia B. Stokes on the show with us today. She and I go way back into old blogging, way back years. We're going to talk about that for a minute. But you probably have seen her way more than you even imagined, because she is a very well-known cancer survivor, dance owner, and the CEO of the company The Vault Dance, which is a nonprofit company that celebrates movement and dance. And she speaks all over the country. She's just incredible. And her story has inspired so many and continues to do so. So Tia, thank you so much for being on the show today.
No, thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here today. So thank
Uh,
you. Yes,
Well,
so
it's
fun.
it's a gift. It really is a gift to have you here. I have been watching and cheering for you from the sidelines for so many years now, and I can't wait to share your story with my audience.
Thank you. No, and I appreciate that. Honestly, every cheer is what got me through to today. So thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, let's roll back the clock a little bit. Can you give us an introduction of who you are, where you live, and kind of
Yeah,
what got you started in the journey of even loving dance? I would love to hear that.
yeah. So I'm Tia B. Stokes. I'm a mother of 5. I actually like when you asked me for like my title earlier, I usually like I don't ever say like CEO, business owner, blah 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 blah. Like I don't know. Like it's always just mom of 5 and everything else just gets to fall underneath of that, right? And I say get with like all those other things are just bonuses to what my main job is, and that's to
Yeah.
be a mother. Wow, I'm gonna get emotional right off the bat. That was weird. But yeah, and I started dancing at 10. I come from a big family of 7 kids. I'm Hawaiian Samoan. My dad's Hawaiian German, my mom is Samoan German. And they had 7 beautiful kids, and I am the baby of 7. And
Okay.
all of my siblings, like every single one of my siblings, from Tanya down to Adam, are just like talented. They sing, dance, they play instruments, they do gymnastics, they cook. Cooking's a talent. They do all
Yes,
the
it
things,
is.
and my siblings are just incredible, like smart entrepreneurs. They are entrepreneurs. And when I was 10, we moved to Utah, and coming from a big family, there's not a lot of money, right? Like you're just trying to feed the kids.
Yeah.
And so my sister Irene, she was a dance teacher. She's a phenomenal dancer and naturally talented again. And so she was teaching dance at the time. And so my mom was like, "You're going to go take dance classes with Irene. It's free, basically, right?"
Get out of my
And
house. We need a minute. We'll get
yeah,
that
right.
energy out.
Yeah, we need a
Yeah.
minute. She can babysit while she teaches you dance too.
Cute.
And so I ended up loving it. I fell in love with dance. I mean, all I wanted to do was be a professional dancer. If you asked me what I was doing with my life, I was going to dance professionally, dance backup, all the things. And honestly, that's where the seed was planted, was with my sister Irene. And thank goodness she didn't give up on me, because there was many times I wanted to quit. There was many times I was crying and I wanted to quit. Um, But my mom and dad would say, nope, keep going, go back. And she never gave up on me. And yeah, I grew to love it and ended up having such an awesome life because of dance. So yeah, that's where it started.
Yeah. So what form of dance were you doing? Were you doing mostly
So I
jazz,
started in hip hop.
lyrical? Okay,
Yeah.
hip hop. Yeah.
So
You're an
hip-hop's
amazing
my
hip hop
baby.
dancer. Yes.
Yeah. So hip hop's my baby. That's where I started. And then of course hula, Hawaiian dancing, because it's our culture. We put on luau's and stuff as a family. But that was where I started. Was hip hop was my baby. And then slowly I started to learn, lyrical. I did ballet. I did, jazz. And in college, I actually started to fall in love with contemporary. That's where my contemporary love came from, was when I went into college. So yeah.
Very cool. And were you dancing for the college team at that point, or where did you go to school in dance?
Yeah, so I went to, at 17, so I was going to Hurricane High School from HHS.
Hurricane.
And there was no high school dance team actually when I was a junior. I remember I was the one teaching the dance team. And so I was trying to just find my space, where I belong. I remember in high school not really feeling oh my gosh, I don't even have a purpose here. There's not even a dance team here. I'm teaching the dance team. I want to be coached. And so my parents let me go to another high school to try to dance. And then finally, when I was a senior, I remember I actually went to an audition, and that's where I had my first dancing opportunity. I went to an audition, and it was for Beyonce Knowles' Billboard Awards. Yeah.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Senior in high school?
Yeah, I was a senior in high school.
Oh my gosh. And you're in Utah, Hurricane.
I'm in Utah.
How did you get the clue about Beyonce? This is such a different world.
So it was a friend of mine, just a friend of mine told me about the audition. And when you're in the dance community, it's kind of small, everybody, especially when you're trying to go bigger,
make it big. Yeah.
Do audition. Yeah. You kind of create that community and everybody tells everybody, what's going on. So a friend of mine had told me about the audition. And so I went to the audition, and yeah, it ended up being, I made it. And that was my first dancing, professional. I got paid, got a paycheck, dancing for Beyonce at the Billboard Music Awards. Yeah.
Wow. So did you get to talk with her, meet her, or was it? Oh,
yeah.
How was it?
No, yeah, it was awesome. She's amazing. It was really cool because she came in. We actually were our choreographers were Nappy Tabs. I don't know if you know them.
I know Nappy Tab. So you think you can dance? That's how I know them.
Yes. Tabitha and Napoleon. They were which is so crazy because that was so long ago, and they're still going strong, But yeah, they were the choreographers on the set, and
so fun.
I remember Beyonce came out, and she was she just just in her sweats and no makeup, just casual. And she's rehearsing the song, and her voice is freaking incredible.
Oh my gosh.
All of us were just oh my gosh.
This is real. Yes.
This is real. Yeah. Because sometimes you just never know. But yeah, she's the real deal. And then after the set, after we performed, we actually all took a bus. We got on the bus. And I sat right by her, and we took a selfie together. It's so cute. I have it in my, we took a selfie together, and we all did a big photo shoot on the strip and stuff. And it was, she's really nice. Yeah. So
that's
all
so
good
cool.
things.
So you do that first pro job, and then what happens next? Was that a domino effect of things happening more?
Yeah, kind of. So then you were asking about college. I danced at Dixie State. It was Dixie State at the time. Mm-hmm. And I was dancing at Dixie State at the time during all that because there was no high school dance, right? So it's kind of funny how it worked out because it's almost now that I'm talking about it and I think about it, I'm wow, if there was a high school dance team, I wouldn't have tried to push more for myself, right?
Yeah.
To find more opportunities for myself.
You would have just settled right into the normal routine program. Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? Now that I'm done, wow, everything happens for a reason. I mean, to go, anyways, that's crazy. I'm starting to think about, but yeah, so I was trying to find ways to dance, and yeah, the college was really my only option on my level, where I was at. And that they took me in. I was the only senior. Dr. Lele had ever let a high school student join the dance company
Wow.
in the college, in the university. So crazy. But yeah, it was during all that. And then after I graduated early, so I could go pursue dancing, moved to LA, and I ended up dancing and touring with a company called USA. And I was able to do a lot of like NBA, NFL halftime performances, teach like college and pro, dance teams, and have so many other fun opportunities through that experience. And I was able to do the NFL Pro Bowl halftime
Wow.
performance. And Jennifer Love Hewitt, she was it's so funny because Jennifer Love is like one of my good friends now.
I
And
know. I saw you guys do a live together recently, which I was like,
yeah,
this is cool. So yeah, tell us about that.
yeah. So she, yeah, it was so funny because I was like, yeah, I was young, and she was the halftime performance for the Pro Bowl, for the NFL Pro Bowl.
What was she doing?
And
Did she sing?
she sings. Have you heard her sing?
No, I didn't know that she was a singer. I just
I
knew she
know her.
was beautiful and an actress.
Yeah, she's a singer too. She's an
Okay,
amazing
of
singer.
course she
Yeah,
is.
her
Amazing.
voice is her voice is beautiful. She has a beautiful voice. But yeah, she was the singer for the halftime performance. So I remember we met, like, kind of, she's a big star, so it was kind of like back, high. But then, like, yeah, now we're like good friends, and I'm like, yeah, I danced as a flower for your halftime performance.
Oh my gosh.
Because I
And
grew up
that's
young and
crazy
stuff.
too. Like, what are the odds
I
with
know,
that? Wow.
I know. So yeah, and then yeah, I just had lots of fun experiences and opportunities in the dance industry, which I think is so crazy. Now that I look back at it, is like I was so young, and I always thought like, man, I'm so young to have. And at the time, I get it. Like nowadays, it's normal to be young getting into the dance industry. I mean, there's like 10-year-olds and 9-year-olds, right? But when 20 years ago,
Oh, it
20,
was
21
not a
years
thing.
ago,
No.
yeah, that was not a thing, right?
No.
Like you don't get seniors or high school kids like doing that. And so it was yeah, such a crazy experience. But I think about it and I'm like, man, at the time I was like, man, I'm so young. Like, what is going to happen in my life? Like what's happening? But I'm so grateful for all the experiences that I had, because it led me, to what I'm doing today. So,
Yeah. Oh
yeah.
my gosh. Well, we're just scratching the surface. So you're performing professionally. How did you end up meeting your husband and kind of settling into mother-wife role? When did that happen in the story?
Yeah. So I was 21 years old, and I came back to St. George from California. And I was actually only supposed to be here for a little bit, of time. I just had met Jamie Spears, Britney Spears'
Mhm.
dad. And he was working to like manage me and help me with my career, right?
Really?
Yeah.
Do you like him? Was it a good experience with him?
For me, it was fine. Like it was great. I guess I was still young. I didn't really
Yeah.
know a whole lot.
Which that's a big deal. Like
But
Britney Spears' dad, you're like, yeah, like you know what's going on. Help me out.
yeah, and
Yeah.
to me, I mean, I'm not going to say I know him so great, right? It was like
Mhm.
a very short time before I made my choice that I was like not going to do that anymore. So yeah, it was like a moment. It was probably like a 4-month period of time where it was like working like back and forth and meetings and things, just trying to manage, right? And then when I came back to Utah, it was like, okay, you're going to pack up your bags. You're going to leave back to LA in a week with my brother. My brother Joe was supposed to go back with me. And I was here with my family. And, at the time, I had been struggling with like an eating disorder,
Mm.
with self-image, issues that I was having, my mental health. And so when I came back to St. George, I was just like, I need something different. Like, not that my life was horrible, right? But it
Yeah.
wasn't leading me closer to my main goal. And that was to have a family. That was to be married. And with my religion, I wanted to be married in the temple, and I wanted to have a family. And basically, I told God that I would do whatever he wanted me to do. Basically, I surrendered. I surrendered, and I just said, I want to live my life for you and whatever you want me to do. And I was 21 at the time. And I remember people thinking, because I grew up here in Southern Utah and everybody had seen my journey. And so people just thought I was crazy because I wasn't going back to LA. And I was going to go work at the Golden Corral.
A little less glamorous. Yeah.
Yeah, less glamorous, but so fun. I loved it. And yeah, I stayed here and worked and then that same year I met my husband. So, which is also crazy because I had been dating, I was engaged twice before, and I was not a believer in like getting married really fast. I was a believer in, date, and then, get married later. And Andy, my husband, was like in between teams at the time. He was drafted in the NFL in 2005. And so at that time, he had come back to St. George and we happened to meet and we met at a barbecue. And it was like, happened so fast. We went on our first date December 15th, got married, got engaged December 31st, and got married January 26th. Like within a month time. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I thought mine was fast.
Crazy. I know, right? But like, it's so crazy because it was that same year that I just knew, like, I just surrendered and I said, these are the things I want. I want to get married. I want to have a family and I want to basically do whatever. I'll be the vessel for whatever you need me to be.
Yeah.
And I'll do whatever you need me to do. And it's led to my whole life today. Everything I'm doing now is because of him.
Oh, I believe it. I mean, that's one of the things that I admire the most about everything you've done. It's always you, me, him, and you, me, and him, like God and your perspective on having that. I mean, really having the larger perspective of that team effort and that there's a plan for you. And that's a whole, we need to get into that because I'd love to hear what the response has been from literally millions of people that are reading this. And I can only imagine the impact that has had on so many individuals and what that's meant for them and their understanding of who they are. And so we need to get to that because that's just incredible. So you get married, you're a baby. How old are you at this point?
I'm 22.
22. Okay. And so when did you start having kids?
Yeah. So I actually had my first kid. It was a honeymoon baby. So I actually had literally 10 months later we had major.
Wow. Okay. Honeymoon. Was that okay? Were you just like, woohoo, let's do it? Or were you shocked? Or, I mean, I'm sure there were more than one emotion, but
I'm sure I was like, woohoo, let's do it at the time.
Yeah.
I think as time, it was hard. I mean, definitely hard. I went through, because I had been struggling with, eating disorders before I got married. Mm-hmm. And with, body image issues and just like lots of body dysphoria.
And do you feel like that came from being in the dancing world or what? Because body image, you're looking, I don't know, like where do you think it stemmed
definitely.
from?
I mean, I feel like in the dance world, back then for me, it was always like comparison, right? Because you're always trying to be the best. You're trying to look the best. You're trying to catch the eye. You're trying to dress. Like everything is about being the best so you can land the job.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I feel like I'm not going to blame dance because obviously we have our choices, right? We all have our free agency, but I feel like in any sport, in any athletic field you go into or anything that you're doing where
anytime you're on a stage at all.
Exactly.
I mean, even now it's like social media is a stage where everyone's looking and seeing and critiquing and comparing. It's just, it's on hyperdrive now.
It's
for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Totally. So when I got pregnant with Major, I was still struggling, like not as bad as I was. I had gotten some therapy and help before, but I couldn't, it was really hard. So I went through prenatal depression, which is something that's not talked about a lot with moms or anybody. Cause I feel like
back then, I mean,
back then, yeah. Well, especially because, we don't really know what's going on. We just think, I'm creating this human. I should be so happy. I should be, this should be like, I'm glowing. I'm this and that. I'm bringing a baby into this world and it's all beautiful things, but there's so much that's going on mentally and chemically that we don't understand. And so I struggled really bad. And I remember that first year I actually stopped dancing because, going into motherhood, you just think, and being married, I don't know about you, but I feel like the stigma is kind of like, oh, you're a mom, you're a wife, that's it. Like, just, that's all you're going to do.
Hand over the keys to the rest of your everything. Yeah.
Yeah. Which I don't want to say that's all you're going to do, but like, there's no room for you anymore. Right. Mm-hmm. Like, I felt like that was kind of my mentality was like, okay, you're no more dancing, no more anything extra. It's just, you're going to be a mom and a wife, and that's your role now. So I was like prepared for that, but I wasn't prepared mentally for that. And it was my husband. I remember I actually got so low into my prenatal depression that I tried to not be here anymore. And I remember I was in my bedroom, and my husband came in, and he walked in and he just like picked me up off the floor and just hugged me and was just like, Tia, we can do this. And I remember it was just such a dark, but such a little light moment for me. And that's when, Andy handed, he was like, hey, we're going to do this. We're going to do that. There was like tools that he gave me to help me to be able to get through that. But then he also sent me back to dance. He was like,
smart man.
Okay, yeah. He was like, you need to start Calamity back up, because I had already started Calamity back up, but I quit that. So he was like, you need to start Calamity back up and go back to dance. And I have not quit dancing since.
And do you think that's such an interesting moment to pause and consider, is that processing emotion through movement for you has been such a healing drug, where it's been like monumental for, what was to come too, to imagine that giving that key back and saying, hey, we're not doing this without that. Like, that is a part of who you are, and that's going to be a part of us. So get back in there.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. Dance, along with prayer and God and medicine and everybody, all the things. Yeah. Dance is what ultimately has kept me going through every part of motherhood and lifehood. Honestly, when I say, I share this on, on social media, is movement is medicine. It really, truly is. So now it's like, and it's helped me with, even my self-love, issues that I had before, my body dysmorphia, all those things that I was struggling with before. My perspective has totally changed. It's movement is medicine. Just like you take your meds every day,
right.
I have this pillow, but just like you remember to take your meds every day or your shots every day, or you have to move your body too. It's a chemical thing that happens that helps us to be able to release those happy chemicals, right?
Yes.
And makes us feel alive, makes us feel energized, makes us feel, I don't know. It's such a thing that I truly have a testimony of, because especially now, can you imagine if I was in the hospital fighting cancer and didn't move my body? One of the biggest fighting mechanisms of cancer is movement. You have to move your lungs. You have to make your lungs work to fight the cancer cells, they tell you, So I don't know. I just look at that, just that moment in my first, having my first baby, and I haven't stopped dancing since. No matter what, it's been the thing that's kept me, I'll have a bad day as a mom at home, I'll get really hard on myself, but then I have to go teach a class and I come back a whole new person.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
I get in a fight with my husband before I leave, and I'm arguing, and I come back all happy and fine and able to think clearly and, communicate and say I'm sorry. And I don't know, it just opens up this whole new realm of what's important and what's not. Mm-hmm. And then you come back thinking just so much clearer. Instead of thinking just what's in the moment, you think about the bigger perspective of everything. So.
Oh, that's beautiful. And I worry a bit about our generation of children that we're raising, where movement can be so easy to not do, with screens and media and chatting, and people not even driving to see each other anymore because you can hang out online, or what I mean? Seeing that now with teenagers that I have, and saying, no, you need to go work out. Whatever that love language is that you can give your body to move your body, whether it's sports or dance or walking or hiking or whatever the thing is, I see that. I had that conversation actually with my son where he is in lacrosse now, and
Yeah.
it's the first sport that he's really enjoyed, and it's taken up till high school to find it. And there are days where he'll avoid going, and I say, but think about how you feel when you come back. No
Oh,
matter
yeah.
how you felt before, think about how you feel when you come back. And he said, I know, Mom, I always feel better. Like almost this submission of, I
Oh,
know,
totally.
fine.
Yes,
Yeah.
totally. No,
But
I
let's,
totally agree. My son, he loves to go just out in the desert. We live in like a more desert area. It's open, and he loves to just go out and look for lizards, go out there. He's
yes.
almost 16 years old, right? But he loves it. Mom, can I go out to the desert? Mom, can I go out to that? I'm like, sure, go. Like, go. Like, even that, like, he plays football and does all the things, but it's always good for them
Nature.
to have that space where they can feel like I can go and move and be free and feel like I have a space for myself.
Yes. Yes. I love that. I feel like it's that same way for my kid where he's like, I just want to go dig for rocks and look for
Yeah.
bones. And he's the same age, just like wants to be out. And I think that's so healing and missing. I think they're missing that calmness, that stillness of just being out in nature and exploring. Like it's so healthy. Okay,
Yes.
so we're going to skip, give us the synopsis of, having babies, you have that baby, you're getting through it. At that time, was that you went back to dance? Were you taking medication too to help you get through that depressive
So
time,
I
or was
wasn't
that
at the
enough?
time. No, I wasn't at the time. I actually, so I didn't, but that's when my husband was like, Tia, you got to write down 3 things that you're grateful for every single day.
Mm,
So he handed me my
look
grateful
at this
journal. My
guy.
first, yeah, he said, my guy, he's a good one, that guy.
Wow. Yeah.
But, and that's, and I share him a lot with like
Hmm.
whenever I do podcasts or speak and stuff because, I realize like not everybody has an Andy, right? So I share my Andy with you,
Cute. I love
with
that.
everybody that needs that support. But yeah, he gave me my first grateful journal and just basically said, we have to change your paradigm. And
Mm.
changing your paradigm means changing the words that are happening within your head and within your, what comes out. And, I truly believe, the words you speak become the house you live in, right? The
Right.
things that you think all the time become what you live in constantly. And I always think, I'm like, can you imagine, like, I get a lot of hate on, sometimes on my reels and stuff. And I feel bad for the
So
people.
many unhappy people. And you
Yes,
always handle it so gracefully with
I
so
just feel
much
so,
love.
because my heart is just so sad for them. I'm like, can you imagine like feeling that heavy and that like sad all the time? Like, it breaks, but it's changing that paradigm in your head. And so I would write down 3 things I was grateful for every day. Like it was like my religion, right? And I would write down 3 I am statements every day. So, like, I am beautiful. I am amazing. I am strong. I am courageous, right? Things that we all know, but we forget.
Yeah.
Like, we forget these things. They're simple things, but we just forget to do them on a consistent level. And so I did that every day. And then he also had me spend, like, it was funny because we had this, like, room in our house that was kind of like just an extra room. So he cleared it all out and he would make me spend like 30 minutes in it every day by myself. Like no, like nothing, no phone, no books, no nothing, just me on the floor, like laying there with my thoughts. And the thing that had to happen within that time, what did happen was that my brain had to relearn how to retrain itself, right? Because it was just me learning to be with Tia. It was going back to that, what we just talked about, like learning to just have that space for myself. And when I would have like a negative thought, just try to replace it, like hurry up and try to replace it with something positive or look for a different way to look at it.
Yeah.
So that was pretty crazy, pretty hard, but it was awesome. Like I needed that time to be able to, and I think back, it's crazy because I think back to that and I'm like, man, who would have known that, 14 years later, I would be stuck in a hospital room, by myself.
Yeah.
With no one.
Oh
Like
my gosh.
no one. Like during the pandemic, no, except for my nurses and doctors, no visitors, no comfort, no touch, no, it was just me and the Lord, right? Like me and my thoughts, me and trying, like, thank goodness for social media, but like, who would have thought like those moments would have prepared me for what I'd be going through years later?
Wow. It was like building a foundation. Honestly, what you were building with your husband were brain performance psychology practices of building self-love, that gratitude, and that stillness of being
Yes.
comfortable in your own space in your own mind. Like it
Yes.
really, that's incredible. Like that your husband thought to do that and that you were able to do that. I mean,
Yeah.
he gave you building blocks, but really you
He
built that
did.
resiliency, and that is monumental with what you
Well,
went through.
exactly. And and the cool thing is that, those things that I learned going through that first journey with prenatal depression, right? Like though, even just like those three things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I started to teach them to my dancers. Like I took it into my dance studio, and now my dancers, they know gratitude is where we start with our lessons. Like every teacher starts the lessons out with, what are you grateful for today? Every kid shares their gratitude throughout their class. We have them say affirmations throughout the class. We're saying,
Wow.
I am beautiful. I got this. We can do hard things,
Oh my
We
gosh, I
have
love
them.
that.
Yeah, so those things that like I learned at 22, I've instilled into my dance studio and to my, like everything I do, to be able to help those that are, hopefully you can learn faster than I did, right? Like, and they can have those tools. So even if they don't take dance forever, they're going to remember saying the things that they're grateful for. They're going to
Yeah.
remember saying, I am amazing. I'm a beautiful dancer. But like all those positive things that were instilled into their brains at such a young age.
Wow. That's
I
incredible.
mean,
And I think with that,
uh,
especially doing dance where you're like looking at yourself all the time and
yes.
critiquing yourself, and then to still be able to reinforce that positivity, like what a lesson for them. I wish my
Oh my
daughter
God.
could, I wish I could go there. Like that sounds so great. I wish my boys could go there. That is such a gift. Oh, I love that so much.
I'm grateful. No, and it's been really awesome. Like I started a group called Hot Mess Fitness, which
Hmm.
basically is, we're all a hot mess, but we're still beautiful, right? Just like my room here. And I've been doing that for a long time as well. I started that with my studio, and it's women, moms, basically, like a workout group. But we do the same thing. I have them say what they're grateful for, and before every workout, and we say I am throughout the whole class. And I have them yell them, we're doing these hard workouts, but
Yeah.
they're saying, I got this, we got this. But I tell them, I'm like, we're exercising that crazy muscle, right? Really though, like we're exercising the crazy muscle, because that's the crazy muscle that's going to kick in when
Hmm.
life gets hard. Like
Yeah.
we're working out for life, not for what we look like, not to be a certain size. We're working out so when we get hit with the cancer card, our brain goes, you know what? I got this.
Wow.
Let's go. I have the tools. I'm going to go in there and fight. And no is not an option, And I honestly feel like that's like what it did for me. Like
Yeah.
all of that training, all those years, like, oh, I can't even, like, it just all implemented into my
It was
journey.
a buildup. Yeah.
Yeah.
So speaking of the cancer card, when I know it was 4/24, but let's talk about that.
Yeah.
What were the symptoms that you were having? What was your reaction to them telling you you had cancer? What was that moment
Yeah.
like for you and your family?
Yeah. So I had just had Rose, my fifth baby, my little girl.
She's so
And
cute.
after I had Rose, I was sick, which is like I had a cough, a sore throat for a long time. I had flu-like symptoms, loss of appetite, loss of weight without trying, night sweats, throbbing headaches, shortness of breath. I remember I couldn't even breathe, just like even talking like this would like, I couldn't breathe. And finally, yeah, it was April 24th. So next week is like my cancer anniversary. My doctor finally, he ran not finally, because I was working with other doctors and stuff. And then finally, the guy that we were really good friends with was really good friends with my husband, was a PA. And his cute wife, Mindy Arnold, was like, you got to figure out what's wrong with Tia. There's something wrong. She's been sick for way too long.
How long
And
had
so
you been sick at this point? Like
7 months,
oh,
7 months.
yeah. Okay. Wow.
Yeah, I was sick for 7 months. And you just had a baby. So a lot of the things are just like,
You're kind of in a fog anyway. And then you have, I mean, this is your fifth. So a lot of
yeah,
times as moms, our attention isn't on ourselves. We're just like, yeah, I'm tired. I'm not sleeping. I must just be,
yeah.
going through it. Yeah.
Well, yeah. And I was still like teaching dance classes. I had just opened up a new studio. It was my second studio up north, in northern Utah. So yeah, there was just like a lot going on that you're just like, oh, I'm just out of it. Like, my body's all out of whack. So yeah, he ended up running a CBC panel. So a CBC panel will detect like your white and your red blood cells. And yeah, he ended up coming to my house, and me and my husband were like sitting on our green couch, and he comes over and his eyes were just like bloodshot because he was a good friend of ours. He's a good friend of ours too. And he just said, I sent your blood work to an oncologist, and you have acute myeloid leukemia. You have blood cancer. And the pandemic just barely hit. I mean, like weeks before, the world just shut down. And he said that I had an hour to get to the hospital. He said that my blood smears looked so bad that they thought they asked him if I was in a coma, like coma state, because of how severe I was, like how sick I was by the looks of my blood. So which was another dancing miracle, because
yeah, I'm like, how are you living and dancing? And oh my gosh,
I was still teaching dance. Like those 7 months, I was teaching classes every day. I would go to the studio and teach class. And then I would come home. I remember I'd come home and I'd just be like, I couldn't breathe. And I was just like out of like, just so weak the rest of the day. But every day I would get up and I would go teach my class. I'd go teach dance. Yeah. So I really truly believe like that movement was medicine for my body at the time without even knowing it,
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I mean, yeah. And that was the day, and it's kind of funny because a lot of, some cancer stories you hear, they're like, okay, we'll check in next week and we'll start your treatments and stuff. But mine was like, it was that day, like
immediate.
Get to the hospital right now. So I packed up a bag, said goodbye to my kids, took one last family picture, and my husband drove me to the hospital and dropped me off on the steps like a package, and we said goodbye.
He couldn't even come in with you or help you check in or anything.
No.
Oh my gosh.
No.
That is terrible. And looking back now, I mean, we know so much more about COVID than we did then. But for you to just go into that unknown of the pandemic and now having cancer and leaving everyone you love, how did you get through that day and the weeks to come and the months? Like, how did you sustain yourself?
Yeah. Well, I think, it was really hard, but there was when I was driving to the hospital with Andy, another Andy moment. I look at Andy and I'm just crying, like bawling tears. And I'm like, is this it? Like, this is my life? And Andy was like mad at God because he's like, holy crap, she's dedicated her life the last 14 years to people with cancer and other life illnesses and dancing for them all these years, right? With Calamity and the Vault. And basically, I've been serving, right? And so my husband was just like, and how? Like, how do you give her, like my wife, cancer that she's been serving your children all these years? And he had this moment where it was just like, he just felt it so strongly, like, it's not about you. There's a bigger purpose. Like, there's a bigger plan to this. Like, she's going to be okay. And so I didn't know he had that moment. And then as I'm asking him, like, am I going to die? Is this it? He looks at me and he looks at me and he doesn't like wipe my tears, doesn't like give me a hug or anything. And he just says, Tia, you're a bad mother trucker. You better pick yourself up and you better go in there and fight and come back home. Right. And every time I tell that story, people are like, oh my gosh, that's so mean, but it was that moment that really changed the direction of my fight. Like he could have been like, oh yeah, I know, I'm so sorry, and cried with me, and I could have left. Like, I mean, because that's all
I
right?
had chills all over my body. I'm like, I love that he said that to you, that he was like, you got this.
Yes, it was like a strong, his coach, he's a football coach. So
yeah. So he's used to pep talking.
Yeah, it was
and
just,
was it really, he said the real thing, right?
Exactly.
Yes,
No, he said trucker. No, he said
he
bad
did?
A mother trucker.
He said trucker. Okay.
Yeah, he said bad A mother trucker. And he's like, you better get in there and fight and come back home. And that was the first time I had ever heard that. And I was like, okay, all right. But in my mind, it was just like the paradigms.
Yeah,
right?
shifting that gear. Yeah.
It goes back to the paradigms. It goes back to shifting that gear to going, yes, I am. I can do this. I will. I'm going to go in there and fight, and I'm going to get back home. I got to get back to my kids. Like, instead of me sitting there and dwelling in the, oh my gosh, this is it. I am. Oh my goodness. This is it. I'm cancer, like dwelling in that. It like turned on a switch for me to go, okay, there's no other option. Like, I have no other option but to get in there and to fight and get back to my kids. Like, I don't see it any other way. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah. Oh yeah.
I didn't see it any other way.
Yes.
So,
I mean, especially as a mother and having that, like all of your heartstrings and every bit of that, of you wanting to come back to that, and that's where you wanted and needed to be. That is such, I feel like even in Mother Nature, I get really emotional watching mothers protecting their young and their babies, because there is so much instinctual, but there is also so much your wholeness is surrounded in them, where it's, you want to protect them, you want to love them, you want to be with them. And I can imagine leaving my babies and having that instinctual, like, I have to come back. I have to be here. Like,
there's no other option. Like, no other option but to fight like hell and to get back home, like, and that was really that was the moment where it just turned the whole game around. Like, I call it again, like literally it was like, okay, we're going to step onto this field and this is it. Like, I only have one option, is to win, and that's it. And I think that just changed the perspective of everything for me. Like, everything from, instead of it being like a hard moment in my life, and I looked at it as an opportunity, like an opportunity to grow, an opportunity to become even better, an opportunity to help those even through the internet, through the screen, like I would get up and dance every day to, for myself to fight, right? For my own physical fight.
Yeah.
But then also it was a way for me to be able to still show people that there was hope and faith and light in such a hard time.
Yes.
During the world.
Yes. It was such a focus of hard. So I'm curious with TikTok, because had you been sharing on TikTok previously, or was it not until you got to the hospital that you're like, okay, I'm doing this? Like, when did you decide to start sharing and doing your song? I mean, you have a song.
Yeah, I have a song. Yeah. I actually started TikTok before I got diagnosed. So TikTok, I think, barely turned into TikTok from Musical.ly, like in January or something like that.
Gary Vee called it. He's like, that's the next social media. You got to be on it. And my husband actually started an account before I did, when it was Musical.ly.
Yeah. So it was Musical.ly. And then, so right as it was switching to TikTok, that's when I got on. And I used to TikTok with Rosie. Rosie was a baby, and she was like connected to and that's how people that followed me before cancer, that's like how they know me, is like, I used to watch you with your baby dancing connected to your belly. Like, I'd have her in a little carrier and I'd be dancing with her. And so I started TikTok like before, and I was like slowly growing, it was slowly whatever, but I was just loving it. It was just fun for me. And then, which was also funny because like right before days up until I was diagnosed, I was doing TikToks like every day. I was so sick, but I'd be like, oh my gosh, but I want to do a TikTok. It's so fun, So I'd get ready, put on makeup, do my hair. Just like, I look at that too as like medicine. Like, that was, I know it sounds so silly, but
something
it was
you
almost
look forward to.
Yeah, it was something that I looked forward to. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay, I'm going to do a little fun video. And so I started. So when the doctor came to me in the hospital, it was like, hey, you got to fight. Like, you got to get up every day. You got to walk for at least 15 minutes or do some kind of form of exercise to fight the cancer cells in your lungs. Like, that's how you fight it. And so, so I was like, I'm a dancer. I'm going to do a TikTok. So I would literally learn the TikTok dances in my bed, and then I would just get up and record it one time. And then that was it. Like, that was all I had energy for.
And
Like,
that's when
really.
you know you're a good dancer. Because I had done a few dances out there and I'm like, okay, I need to record this like 50 times. I'm like an hour into a workout. I'm like, okay, well, there's my workout for the day. So yeah, that's amazing.
It was
So you
so
just
fun.
do it once.
I would get my nurses involved and my doctors
Yeah.
involved. And, I mean, that
No,
was such a
it
grateful.
became a movement. I mean, watching that and then celebrities started getting involved and other people. And I feel like there were so many people, I mean, if not everyone that was there is looking for some sort of hope or what's going to happen when we're
Yeah.
out of this. And it was almost like this mirror representation of not only you alone, but then also this collective of like, are we alone? What's going to happen? I have this despair. When
Yeah.
did that change? I mean, gosh, I don't even know what question to ask with this because what are some big moments that happened during that time that helped you to continue to create these videos and to continue to fight? Like, what are some standout moments for you with that?
Yeah. I mean, oh my gosh, I have so many, but yeah, like you said, which is another crazy thing because, at 21, I started Calamity, and we had been dancing for people all over with cancer and other illnesses.
I didn't know you started that so young, that
Yeah,
your
so
nonprofit
that was the same when I talked about how I told God, like, I'll do whatever he wants me to do. I started
Wow.
Calamity that same year. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
So, yeah, that's why I have no other way to to explain it except for through the him, you, me, we, because
Yeah.
that's really my life. Right. And so I had been dancing for people all these years. And the other day I did another podcast, another interview, and they asked her, like, did you know that was going to happen? Did you know, like, all those people were going to come and dance for you or dance with you? And I said, no. Like, honestly, that's not even what was going through my brain when I started dancing on TikTok, or even just like, when I got diagnosed. I was just dancing to try to share updates or share, because I was already sharing like little messages with my dances.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was what was so different with my TikTok, dances, because every time I post a dance video, it was with a message, like some kind of positive message, or you're beautiful, or some kind of just, I always wanted to hype people up. Right. And so, yeah. And then people all over the world started joining in and duetting and dancing. And I had this moment where I was like, oh my gosh, like, what is happening right now? Like, so crazy to see people all over the world, just like in a time when it was so sad. We're the world collectively, right? Like, how
For
does
the
that even
first time,
happen? Like,
everyone going through the same thing. Yeah.
how does that even happen? Like, everybody is basically stuck in their houses, miserable. We're all going through this together. You see this girl that's going through cancer, chemotherapy, transfusions, losing her hair, dancing and coming together and bringing, like, it's not me, but it's him and it's we, that we're all bringing that love and support and kindness and happiness and light in such a hard time as a world collectively. Like, I think back at that and I'm like, wow, like millions, like millions of people, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it brought so many awesome opportunities. I mean, I did a show with Rachel Ray, on her, I was a guest on her show. I was Zooming with like Charlie, the D'Amelio family, which now the D'Amelio family is like are good friends of mine. Like, I talk to Heidi daily. I just filmed something with them last week. I mean, Jennifer Love Hewitt reached out and now we're really good friends. I mean, I've been able to Allison, so many awesome people that have come to be a part of my life in such a hard time. But now I've gained so many great friendships. And, at the end of this life, really, I don't know. I was raised, my dad always talked about that. So I think my perspective is just a little different, is that I always think about like the end of my life, like at the end of this life, and what I get to take back with me is nothing, none of this stuff, not my clothes, not my hair, not my jewelry, nothing, right? Not my car, but we get to take our relationships and the people that we've met here on this earth. And for me, I think about like that journey and I'm like, wow. Or even the dancing for a cause thing that I get to do, my mission now, is everything is building those relationships that essential are for, those are the true treasures when we leave this earth. So it's brought, yeah, I mean, it's amazing.
So cool. Now,
Yeah.
I mean, here on this podcast, we talk a lot about motherhood too. And I know that your primary relationships that you treasure more than anything is your kids.
Yeah.
And during that time, how did you maintain connection with them and still, you're such a positive person, and that's an obvious thing. And from the watching your children and the way you interact with them, I actually was sharing with my teenage son how you shared about going on the one-on-one date and how they think you're dating now. And we just went out and they thought that my son's a lot bigger than me now too. And they're like, oh, I thought you were his sister. And I'm like, thanks, but it's so fun. Like being a mom is the best. And
It
what
really
was that?
is the best.
Yeah, it really is. And you have these 5 darling children. What do you think they learned through watching you on this
Oh my
global
gosh, my
lens?
kids are the most resilient. I mean, they are stronger than me. And they put me in check. Like they're the ones that my son, oh, sorry, I'm gonna cry because every time I talk about my kids, I cry. But my oldest son, Major, the one that's in that video, which I get so much, it's funny because I get so much crap. Every time I do a video with him, I get so much crap about it. Like, I don't know if it's just because I look young and he looks old or what. Like the guy, but it's weird. But he is so resilient. Like there's days like this, I'm on social media. A lot of people talk, their friends talk and their friends know. They all have, my kids don't have phones or anything. And so they don't really see anything except for when their friends talk about it. So, they'll come home and say, oh yeah, my friends were all, making fun of me and blah, 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 blah. And, just teasing it like boys do.
As they do. Yeah.
And, oh yeah. And, and so I'll ask them, I'll always check in with my kids. Like, are you guys okay with it? Like, do you want me to quit? Like, do you want mom not to do social media anymore? Do you want me to just not do it? Like, I'll just do the mom, like we could just do the mom thing. And that's great too. And my boy Major's like, Mom, why would you do that? Like, we're not quitters. We don't quit in this family. And I was just like, oh my gosh. She's like, Mom, you're helping so many people. Like, why would you quit and not, what are you going to do? Like, that's all he knows is that aspect of my life through dance for a cause, through calamity, and through social media is helping people. And so, my kids they're just so strong. And I think, and I always tell moms and, whenever I get to speak and share with women is like, we are the biggest influence for our kids. And it's not what we say, but it's what we do. And watching my kids grow up, especially in this phase of their life, my 2 oldest ones that are teenagers now, and watching them become adults, right? Essentially, they're going to be adults in a few years. I'm going to have an 18-year-old. I think I'm like, wow, my 15, soon to be 16-year-old is so much better than I was. I mean, I moved out of my house at 16. I was a rebel child, right? And I look at him and I'm like, oh yeah, he's not going anywhere.
You're like, you need to stay here as long as I can.
He's just so sturdy. Like he's just so sturdy. He knows his brain is so just like on the right path. Like he knows like how to help people. They know how to jump in and be a part of things. They create friendships. Like it's cool when you can hear your kids say the things back to you and teach you, because we're all human. We all have those moments, but
sure.
I remember having a moment at the hospital when I was going through COVID and cancer. And I was put in complete isolation right at this time for like 2 months.
Oh my gosh.
And I hadn't left my hospital room for 28 days and stuck in that room, couldn't even go out in the hallway. And it was the first time I saw my kids. And, but I couldn't touch them. I couldn't like hug them or anything, but I could just stay like 6 feet away from them. And they were in the van. They were like in our van on the street. And I was kind of like on the sidewalk. And I remember my son Legend was like, Mom, we miss you way more than you know. But to hear your kids like be empathetic like that, to hear them like, I mean, my son was, I think he was like 10 at the time. And so to hear him just say those words that his mom needed to hear, because going through that too, you also start to feel like everybody else can do it better. Like you just feel like almost like you go back into being a baby, like everyone's taking care of you and you can't do anything and you can't do the role as a mother that you were doing. Like you can't do everything that you were doing. So you also start to feel like, oh, well, they have grandma, they have Auntie Kelsey, they have dad. They don't really, So to hear my kids just feel that empathy and that sympathy for their mother and to say those things without being told, right, was just such a huge moment that I think that built all of us as a collective. And but my kids, I mean, Rosie even will be like, Mom, we can do hard things. Mom, we got this. And I truly believe like it's just made our family so much stronger and given us all a bigger perspective. And yes, we're still, you go through those, relearning things, through our relationships. Like even still with my teenagers, I feel like, they were the oldest. So they struggled the most really because yes, I left Rosie at 7 months old, and I was away from her, but she doesn't really remember a whole lot. Right.
Right.
But my older ones, they remember, and they remember that feeling of emptiness and loneliness and not having their mom there. And so I think even still to this day, and I'm sure for a while, we're still relearning those relationships and, gaining that, that connection back. But their resilience is just so incredible, like just amazing and constantly teaching me all the time.
Wow. Well, that just speaks volumes of the way that you've raised them, you and your husband together, that they can be there in that moment and to be literally a support unit where it's not just you, it's them, it's everything.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's them watching their dad too, like watching my husband. Like I think about my husband too, and I'm like, man, I'm not an easy I'm not an easy human to deal with, from the get-go. But then to hear like, everything that's happened since we've been married. And I always look at him, I'm like, thanks for never giving up on me. Like, thanks for never just easy. I mean, how easy it could have been just to be like, man, this is really hard. I'm done. Like, I can't do this anymore, But how, like, I think they learned that from him, like the resilience, and the strength. And watching him, I mean, he would coach his high school football team. He was the head football coach, plus teach high school. Then he would come home, pack up the kids, drive them an hour to the hospital just to stand outside, on the corner. And my room was like 8 floors up. So they couldn't really see me. I would just like flash my blinds so they could see where I was at. So it's like, I don't feel like it's me. I feel like it's we, all of us, but that raise children, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It takes a community. It takes people, the people that are surrounding your kids too. I mean, for them to watch their dad to do that, all the things he was doing, and then to watch the community come together and help with our house when it was black mold and mice infestation because I couldn't come home, to watch people serve and love and people love them when I couldn't. I mean, it really is. When they say it takes a village to raise kids, it really does. Like, truly does. So
I think that's just thinking about the perspective of having built support for other people going through things like this for so many years, and then to be on the receiving end of that.
Yeah.
What a gift you are to have built an infrastructure that people can do that and to rally around people, because I can't imagine what that must feel like to think, now what, with everything moms handle and the many that invisible weight they call it, or the mental load. There are so
Yeah.
many ins and outs and getting people where they need to go and fed that
Yeah, totally.
what a gift that you have, that you built that. I mean, and to be on the receiving end of that, I can't think of anyone more deserving. So I'm so
Thank
grateful
you.
that you had that. That's
Thank you. No, and
incredible.
I'm truly grateful. And yeah, I know, and I think about that whole journey and I think about like, wow, like so many people came together, but it all goes back to the relationships, right? Like
Mhm.
I think all those years since I was 21 years old, I had put so much emphasis and love into all those relationships, whether I was, dancing for them or serving them through dance or fundraisers or, community outreach. Like that was my sole purpose. And so it really does matter. Like it does matter. And
Yeah.
I always talk about that with business, when it comes
Mhm.
down to talking business, it's like your relationships is where it's at. Like build those I'm sorry, but like it's not all about what you know, it's who you know and who
Yeah.
you are loving. Like
I love that. Who
truly
you are loving.
who you are loving. Like, and that means everyone. And when people see that, they build that trust. They
Yes.
build that love. They build that, and then people want to work with you. If
Yes,
that
because
makes
it's
sense.
about
Like,
who it is. Yeah, not what it is or how
yeah,
many followers they have. Or I can't imagine. I cannot imagine. I have like the tiniest following compared to what you're dealing with. I cannot imagine the amount of requests even and having to manage that load, let
yeah.
alone everything else. Like, how did that transform your business in ways of influence and your business and everything else? I mean, that's a whole other side of this.
Yeah, yeah, it is. But honestly, it's been such a blessing. I feel like, with my business, the vault is my business, Calamity is my nonprofit, and then I have Tia B, right? And I feel like it's honestly like the vault and Calamity is like I feel like I'm so grateful because it's all my passion. Like
Yes.
I feel like, I
Many
like what we've
babies.
talked about this whole time is like hyping people up, helping people. I feel like that's my purpose on social media as well. But it's just been so amazing because I feel like my experience with, my cancer journey, everything that I've been through, I've been able to take it and it's not a struggle. It's not a sad thing. It's been a triumph. You know how they say that,
Mhm.
like you turn your struggles into a triumph, right? And
Yeah.
I honestly can say that's what it's been. Like it's been such an opportunity and I call it an opportunity because now I get to travel for my career to speak and share my story. Like and I always, when I started speaking and I'd go into like universities and things, and Andy would be like, I'd be like, oh my gosh, like I barely graduated high school, and he's like, Tia, they don't want you for your brains, like they want you for you and for
Yeah.
your story. He's like,
For
only
everything you've
you,
already done. Yeah.
yeah. He's like, only you can tell your story, what they
Hmm.
want. Like that's what they
Yep.
hired you for. So it's been so like I'm still learning and I'm still growing, which I love that of becoming, constantly becoming. But now it's like I get to put on conventions, my becoming conventions every year. That's like my baby, my speaking convention that I get to put on. And then I get to be a part of so many different organizations. I mean, it's just opened up so many doors for my career, if you want to call it, I guess. But
Oh,
to be able to,
absolutely. I mean,
yeah,
I'm listening to this and going, okay, you're professional speaking, you have
yeah,
your dance conventions, you have your nonprofit, you have your influencing, you have, I mean, this is a lot. Like,
it's huge.
how are
Yeah,
you managing all
yeah,
of that and motherhood? What has been the key for you?
yeah. So the key for me is get help.
Yeah.
I would
Yes.
tell any mother, don't do it by yourself. And actually, I was just talking to my assistant about this the other day. I said, the way to grow is to let go.
Hmm.
And I know that sounds so weird because you're like, oh my gosh. And I know a lot of moms and women are very micromanagers and we want to have our hands in everything, right? We just want to do everything. But the way to grow is to let go. Like sometimes you have to let go of things to be able to let other people help and let
Yes.
other people step in and be like, okay, well, I can do this. I'm really good at this. So I'll manage this for you. Okay, I'm really good at this. I can do this for you. And sometimes it's letting go of money. You got to pay a little here, you got to pay a little there to be able to grow a little more, like
Yep.
I truly believe in that. So I do. I have a partnership manager. She's awesome. She handles all my brand partnerships and brand deals and all that side. And then I have an assistant that helps me on, with social media or with editing or with like bookings, with my speaking stuff, booking all that. And then I have, my studio has a whole staff there. Like, it's funny because when I started my studio, I was teaching pretty much all the classes. It's like everything, right? I had to grow there too. Like, that's where I think I learned that.
Yeah.
That
you can't do
let
it
go
all.
to grow.
Yeah.
Because I had to learn, it was really hard for me to like let go of class. I love teaching. I love it. I love it. I love it. And that was really hard because I was like, oh my gosh, but these are my babies. And oh my goodness, I want to teach all the classes. But as life changes and as my kids got older and as I started having more kids, I had to learn to like let go and let other people, and letting other people fill in for you or duplicating my brother used to always say this too about business. Once you've learned how to duplicate yourself, you're succeeding. Like if you can duplicate yourself and create more of you, right, in your work environment or in your business, like good freaking job, because that's hard to do. So I feel like before social media and before all this stuff, was going, I got to learn that with my studio first. Like I got to learn with letting go, letting other people teach, letting, training teachers up. And so now it's just like my studio basically runs itself. I teach like a couple classes a week. And then I have so many amazing people that are on my team that help me with my brand, my TAB brand, to my speaking, to traveling, teaching, all the things. And then I have an amazing husband and family. And yeah, it's been really, it's awesome.
Well, there's two things that I want to focus on here is that this didn't happen overnight. It was very much, you learned a concept of how to let go to grow within the dance studio. And this success has been built upon that understanding, and that it was step by step, and that you found ways to help do. This is when I do coaching for women in business, I talk to them a lot about what are the things that only you can do, not what are you good at or what have you been proficient in, but what, especially for someone like yourself who has so many multifaceted pieces of what you do, there are things literally that require your face. And then there are others that do not. And so you need to consider, what are those things? Where is it replaceable? Where is there space that maybe even someone else could do something better than you could, where they have a specific training for whatever the thing is, bookkeeping, for example, or any of those other things. So I think it's really evident that you've done it that way, because otherwise you couldn't sustain it. There's no way. Like, we have to have help.
There's no way. Yeah, there's no way. And it's a hard thing to learn, and it takes a lot of like being able to just to trust people. And sometimes you fail. I mean,
sometimes you get burned. Yep.
You're gonna get burned. That's just what happens. Like, it's just part of it. But I think it all goes back to that. Like, you just got to be resilient and remember your why. I think no matter what business you're in, I always tell people, with business, it's like, do what you love and it'll never be work for you ever. Like, do something you love. I don't care if you think it's not going to make you a lot of money, right? If you choose something that you are absolutely passionate about and you love it, you will do it for the rest of forever, and it will sustain you for where your needs are met, right? And if you do something you love and you truly love it, of course you're going to be passionate about it, and of course you're going to put more into it, and of course it's going to help build you, right, financially. So I 100% believe in that, because I feel like sometimes we lose the passion for things because we're so drawn by the wrong motive, right?
The shiny object.
The shiny object. Yes.
So I'm curious. I love that advice. And I'm curious where you are right now. Now
Yeah.
you're in remission. And how
Yeah.
long tell us like where you are physically
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah. So I am 3 years in remission. So
Yay!
I know. Yeah. Yeah. I'm so excited, but it's so awesome. And I'm thriving. I mean, I feel great. I'm going through graft versus host disease, which is after transplant. After a transplant, so I had a bone marrow transplant. They basically, it's your donor cells that attack your body. They attack like all your large organs and things like that. So they have me on, I take like chemotherapy every day. So I take 2 doses of chemo every day. And then I just
Is
got
that
off
in pill
steroids.
form? Is that a pill
Yeah.
form
So
chemo?
oral,
Okay.
yeah, oral chemo. And then, yeah, I'm living, we just barely moved to Southern Utah, which was another, I mean, this goes back to my kids because, after everything we had been through up north, I was just really pulled to be able to put my kids around people that love them and my husband. Like, I feel like I received a lot of, which I know my kids and my husband received a lot of love, but I know it was a lot more stress on them than even myself, throughout that whole time. And so we decided that to move back to St. George, Southern Utah, because, all of my family's here, all of my brothers and sisters and their kids. Andy's parents are here. And our whole motive was just to have them be around family, like to be
Yeah.
around people that love them, that can, like I said, your village, right?
Yes.
So just creating a village for them where they can feel safe and loved and protected and supported through everything that they're going to be going through. And that was like our main objective on moving back. So we're back in Southern Utah and I'm back with my studio here. I'm a full-time mother. I'm running my kids all over the place for their
Yes.
activities, which I love. I love that I get to do. I mean, and that's the thing is like, as an entrepreneur, like I get to do that. Like,
Yeah.
I have people that run the studio, they teach, they do all the things there. I have people that run my social media stuff and help me there. And then I get to fully be at the games and stuff. Unless it's like the face thing where I'm speaking, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm
Which is
traveling.
fun to mix that up.
Yeah.
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 So yeah, it's pretty cool and an awesome experience that I get to have is to be able to, still be a part of like, I don't know, in such a big way of sharing my story and speaking and traveling and teaching. But still when I come home, I get to be full on just mom. Like I come home, every time I'm home, I'm just mom. Like I just get to do all the mom things. So.
Oh, well, you are doing it beautifully. Watching you do the balance of it all is just, it's inspiring to me. And one thing I mentioned before that I wanted to come back to is the inspiration of your faith and that you share that consistently. What has been maybe a quick story that you can share of that influence that you've had with sharing God and your faith and what it means to you and the journey that you've had?
Yeah. Well, this goes back to when I was in the hospital that second time, I mean, not the second time, but the second day I was in there. And, people started sharing my story online and stuff. I remember I was in the hospital, I was by myself again, always. And I opened up my Instagram and the messages were just coming in and people were just saying, Tia, I never wanted to pray before. I never wanted to have a relationship with God before. I never wanted to, go to church, whatever church they were a part of, whatever religion or whatever. And they said, now I want to, like, now I'm praying because I'm praying for you. I want to have a relationship with God and Jesus Christ. And it was just such a moment that was the opportunity, right? Like the opportunity was there that I was able to bring people closer to Christ and closer to our Heavenly Father through my opportunity, right? Of cancer. And so for me, that was it. Like, that's what we needed. And so the him, you, me, we, I share at the end of every post, every reel or TikTok is, with him, you, me, we got this. Like, we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. And it's been cool to see people that even aren't like, and not, you don't even have to be my religion or whatever religion, it doesn't matter, right? That it's such an open for everybody. That I've heard people say like, oh, I want to get it tattooed on me, you know, like I want to get it tattooed on me, the him, you, me,
Yeah.
we.
It's like an anthem. Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it's become like a strength for a lot of people. Like it's really, really cool to see that faith exercise in so many people, no matter, like I said before, like no matter who, what, where, what, you know, like
Yeah.
they all feel
We
that
all
love.
need a bigger perspective. And I think
Yeah.
that that's that gift that you were giving is that it's more than just you.
Yeah.
And your story is bigger than what you can see with your own two eyes. And I think that that message is so impactful, and I'm so grateful for it. And I'm so grateful that you have shared your story on our show. I feel like I could talk to you forever, and I know I need to wrap
I
it
love
up.
you. You're so awesome.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so great. Sorry to cry like that, like a baby.
No, are you kidding me? Oh my gosh. I am just so grateful that you're willing to go there. And there's actually two questions I ask every guest. I didn't prep you with this, but the first is a motherhood moment, something that happened recently in your life that's been really special, whether it's, you know, a funny anecdote, something your child said, or something special that you have experienced in your life recently as a mom. That's the first one.
Okay.
The second one, I'll let you think about that for a second. And the second one is, what are you reading, watching, or listening to?
What am I reading, watching, or listening to? Oh man. Okay. So the first one is actually just this morning I was doing, so I cold plunge every morning for, you know, my disease and stuff.
Do you have a special bath, like a special outdoor one, or what do you do?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, I do. And my cute little Rose, she's so cute. She's
5,
like
4.
What's that?
Is she 5 or 4?
She's 4. Yeah, she's 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
So cute.
But she's glued to my hip. She does everything with me. She does everything. And so I was doing it, and it was just so cute because she's like, Mom, we can do hard things. Come on, Mom. We're going to do this together. It was just such a cute little moment that,
does she cold plunge with you?
Well, she just sticks her feet in, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, but she's just like, it was just such a cool moment to hear her say those words, like I said, back to me. But I live for those moments, and they remind me like what we're fighting for, you know. And then the other thing is what I'm reading, what I'm watching, what I'm listening to, right? Mm-hmm. What I'm listening to is what am I listening? I'm listening to, oh my gosh, I listen to everything, guys. I listen to
we are listeners here, so give it to us.
I know. But I mean, it's mostly music. I mean, I'm a big music girl because I dance. So I'm always jamming out to music in my home or in my car, or always uplifting, just fun music. I think right now, I'm trying to think, you wouldn't even know the song because it's like back in the 80s. So 80s music.
Try us. Give us something you love.
Oh, okay. It's called Rock Steady.
I know Rock Steady.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm the youngest of 5. So that was like my oldest sister was listening to that, and I was pretending to be as cool as her. Yes.
To be as cool as her. That was me too. And then watching, I actually don't watch a whole lot of things. I know that's so bad. But I think I'm going to watch So You Think You Can Dance. I know it just started yesterday, or it's on Mondays.
Ooh, I didn't know that. It kind of went dipped for me for a minute. I loved it. I know.
Me too.
I don't know. All the OG choreographers, when they left, I was like,
I know.
What is this? Yeah.
Me too. I was a big So You Think You Can Dance fan when Allison Holker was on the show. I love Allison. Love her.
That was my favorite season.
Oh yeah, mine too, hands down. So but I got to meet a lot of the dancers like a couple weeks ago with JoJo Siwat when I went and did that thing with JoJo Siwat. So yeah, it might be fun to watch that. But me and Rosie are huge Dancing with the Stars fans. We love Dancing with the Stars. So we watch that. And and
anything you're reading.
I read, you know what? I need to read more, but I read the Bible and the Book of Mormon. So there you go.
Very cool. Well, I feel safe to say that this has been absolutely incredible. You are amazing. Please let us know where we can support you, follow you, help you be a part of this community.
Yeah, you can follow me and be a part of it on @the_Stokes. So, and that's on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, or, you know, my studio, The Vault Dance, on Instagram or on our website. But we'd love to have everybody all the people, anyone that wants to be a part of the things we do, we're welcome to it. So.
Or your cool merch. Are you still selling merch too?
I am. We actually have a drop. So my diagnosis date is the 24th of this month. So I'm actually launching a big drop, a brand new drop, which is awesome because I designed it with Andy. And it's mostly for it's for the boys and for the girls and for the world. That's like the thing. So
Cute.
It's fun because the pieces are like for the boys too, which I love. But yeah, so April 24th, it's going to drop and it's going to be awesome. So
cool.
Yeah.
Well, I've got to get this one edited quick then so that we can have it go live and talk about it. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you. Love you. This has been incredible. And thank you all for listening. And please share this episode if you think it would be helpful. Every share helps and we appreciate it so much. So thank you so much and we'll see you next time. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. Remember that if you are looking for any extra help or guidance, I am actually offering a group coaching now called CEO. It is using brain performance psychology to help you reach and obtain the goals that you've been wanting to use, actually using brain science. A lot of what we talked about in this episode is using the mechanisms of gratitude, repeating the things that we love that light us up and also help you to get where you want to go. This is going to be a group of high-performing, high-achieving women. It's going to be networking, masterminding, and also in-person and Zoom trainings. If you are interested, please email me at callmeceo@gmail.com. There's also a link below to the website, ceo.co. Can't wait to see you there. Hey CEOs, thank you so much for spending your time with me. If you found this episode inspiring or helpful, please let me know in a comment and a 5-star review. You could have the chance of being a featured review on an upcoming episode. Continue the conversation on Instagram at Call Me CEO Podcast. And remember, you are the boss.